So 2020 is coming to an end, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it because it hasn't been an easy year for everyone. In fact, it has been a year full of heartache, uncertainty, and hopefully personal growth. If you're lucky enough to remain unscathed at this point, maybe it's time to give yourself a pat on the back and shop for a brand new keyboard or mouse, since we're probably going to be stuck working from home for a little while longer. Speaking of personal growth, it seems that Corsair has done a lot of that recently with their brand new lineup of peripherals. Gone are the very in-your-face, gamery, gimmicky logos all over. We're now left with this very subtle, elegant, may I say, and sophisticated group of peripherals. Today we're going to be reviewing the Corsair Katar Pro, the wired edition, the K60 RGB Pro, and the K100 RGB. No Pro, although this is the flagship. So yeah, let's get cracking. Oh yeah, this could potentially be the only Katar Pro wired edition review on the internet right now. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing because it does support our channel and help us make more content like this. Without further ado, let's get cracking again. With the Katar Pro, Corsair has entered a rather saturated market for light gaming mice right now. But they took an interesting approach because they've made a mouse without those pestery holes. And let me put it on record because I hate mice with holes. No matter what you say, when you game on it, you're gonna get debris and dead skin all stuck underneath that. And yes, sure, you can clean it, but it's still disgusting. Anyways, let's take a closer look at this mouse. So this Corsair Katar Pro wired edition is priced at 89 ringgit or $24.99 US. It comes with, well, just a mouse in the package with the warranty slip and all that stuff. So pretty simple. Gone are the odd grey accents of old. We're now left with this updated matte black shell with very minimal branding and textured sides to give you better grip, although they're not rubberized. Also, we have this scroll wheel on top that is rubberized with RGB lighting. This mouse is 115.8mm long, 64.2mm wide, and 37.8mm tall. The wired version is actually 69 grams, while the wireless version is 96 grams. I see what you did there, Corsair. Well played. The cable is not braided, but it's made of a rather durable rubber, as you can see. And at the end of the cable, you get this USB Type-A connector. This mouse comes with 6 programmable buttons, 2 individual panels for your left and right clicks, 2 more on the left side, 1 in the middle behind the scroll wheel, and also the scroll wheel is clickable. The Katar Pro is actually pretty small and compact as well as symmetrical, which means that it will serve very well for people who like to claw grip or even finger grip. But if your hands are small, you can even palm grip it, but as you can see, my fingers would extend way beyond the left and right clicks to make it comfortable for me to palm grip this mouse. Now the sides are textured, but not rubberized. If you get really sweaty, this might be an issue, but for me, it has performed pretty well. And I would rather have this textured finish than a rubberized mouse because over time, things can get quite gooey and sticky, and yeah, that's no good. Although this mouse looks symmetrical, it's not exactly ambidextrous because the 2 buttons only exist on the left side, making this a right-handed mouse. The scroll wheel is also rather recessed, which means that your middle finger is going to be pretty in line with your index and your ring finger, which is going to be pretty comfortable over long periods of use, from my experience anyways. The DPI switcher is also very small, so you're less likely to accidentally click on it while gaming. So here's a sound test. This mouse comes with the PixArt PAW3327 12400 dpi optical sensor, which is pretty much the same as the one in the M55 RGB Pro. It tracks very accurately and the lift-off distance seems to be okay. We tested the sensor of the mouse by putting coasters at the front and the back of the mouse, leaving the sensor exposed to see how many coasters it takes before the mouse would stop tracking. And to our surprise, it took one coaster, so that's pretty good. Some other things that you should note about this mouse is that the wired version comes with a better sensor than the lower spec one in the wireless mouse, which is the PWM3325 10,000 dpi sensor. Also, the wired version comes with customizable RGB in the scroll wheel, while the wireless version only has a customizable RGB in the DPI switcher. So what's the verdict on this Katar Pro Wired Edition? Okay, let's look at the pros first. First and foremost, it looks really nice and sleek compared to the older version with all these weird grey accents. And secondly, it is lightweight and compact, so you can use it and game for long periods of time without feeling any fatigue in your hands. Thirdly, good build quality as well as a decent cable. Although it's not braided, it is still pretty flexible and strong. Next, it has an excellent sensor that tracks really well and a very decent lift-off distance. The RGB is also quite decent. It's not crazy, but it's pretty nice. It is very customizable in terms of the buttons as well as the DPI settings. And finally, it is only 89 ringgit. It is so #cheap buy. And it uses the same sensor as the more expensive M55, which is priced at 169 ringgit. And it is half the price of the wireless version, which is 199 ringgit. So what are you waiting for? Next, let's look at the Meh. Okay, the first Meh is that not everybody likes a light and small mouse. I personally normally prefer a heavier and larger mouse because I like a little bit more weight in my mouse. But I do use a lighter mouse while playing FPS games, so there's that. There's no adjustable lift-off distance, which some of you might care about if you're very specific about your settings. Finally, let's look at the cons. And I tried my best to find things to nitpick about this mouse, but unfortunately I can't find any. I actually like this mouse a lot. It is great, and because of that, I give this mouse a very solid 8.5 out of 10. Next, we're gonna review the K60 RGB Pro. What makes this keyboard so pro, you ask? Well, because of the cherry viola switch. It is also a wired keyboard only, and it is actually rather affordable at 419 ringgit or $89.99 US. So what does it come with in terms of accessories? Just the keyboard, Abu then, or what you want? So the keyboard comes with a pretty basic chassis with rounded edges at the front. It is made of anodized aluminum with a brushed metal finish that looks kind of dark gunmetal, although it's supposed to be black. It is quite fingerprint resistant as well, so that's cool. In terms of branding, it's actually quite low profile. You have this nice Corsair black logo at one corner, and then you have this tiny little K60 Pro writing on the other side. The build quality of this thing is actually quite superb. Outside of the aluminum, you have this very rigid plastic at the bottom, and the whole thing is quite solid. And if you try to exert some force in the middle of the board, as you can see, there is not much flex. Also, we're gonna do the shake test, putting this keyboard right next to the mic. Let's see if it makes any rattling sound when we shake it. Shake, 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 shake it. Nothing, not a sound. Silent as a ninja. Finally, when I run my fingers across the keys, they don't even move. Nothing. Just stay still. Chaw ting ting. No problem, bro. As you can see, the per key RGB is actually a lot brighter than the previous generation, no doubt because of the low-key keycaps that come with the K60 Pro, which means that the keycap doesn't extend beyond the midpoint of the switch, leaving the glowing switch exposed and glowing brightly like this. This keyboard is 441mm long, 137mm wide, and 35mm thick. It is reasonably compact for a full-size layout keyboard and only weighs 0.88 kilograms. Pretty light. The cable that comes with the K60 Pro is actually not braided nor detachable, and it's 1.6 meters long. Okay, if you're a keyboard enthusiast, you might want a detachable cable and you're not gonna get it here. At the bottom, you get 4 rubberized pads on the 4 corners, and they seem to be pretty small but are completely adequate to keep the keyboard in place. Also, you get this single level adjustable legs that gives you up to 8 degrees of height. The keycaps themselves are made of ABS, which is fine. It is not PBT though, which will last a lot longer than ABS. It feels really smooth to the touch, which is great, but they won't last as long as PBT. You could buy the replacement PBT caps that Corsair is selling right now, but it will bump up your cost quite a bit. As for switches, this keyboard comes with the Cherry Viola switch, which is pretty cool. Cherry made these mechanical linear switches for affordable keyboards. At the same time, they're also designed to be hot swappable, which means that when Cherry releases more switches in the future, you can just take these out and replace them. However, Corsair does not support that, and if you try to remove any of these switches, it will actually void your warranty. Anyways, they do type really well and has a very quick return. You won't miss a beat, no matter if you're typing or gaming. So here's a sound test. So that actually sounds pretty good. So as you can see, there is no designated volume control wheel, but you do get all the controls for your volume. Mute is here, media controls, as well as light changes for the keyboard. Function plus F1 will toggle the Windows lock mode, which will prevent you from clicking on the Windows key during gaming sessions. And the function plus all the num keys will actually allow you to cycle through all the RGB modes such as rain, watercolor, Wiser, Color Pulse, and Rainbow. You can also use function plus to increase the speed and function minus to reduce the speed of the effects, as well as use the square brackets to rotate the effects. See, rotate towards the left, rotate towards the right. You don't really need to use the Corsair software to customize most of the RGB effects, so that's pretty cool because some of you probably hate the iCUE software. I personally like it because it allows me to do quite a number of things with my other peripherals as well as my components in my PC as well. So yeah, it's down to personal preference. But do not, and I repeat, do not throw away your instructions manual in this case, because none of the things that I showed you just now about controlling the RGB effects is actually written on the keycaps themselves. So you're gonna need the manual to get all these cool things to work. So being a relatively budget-friendly mechanical keyboard with Cherry switches, this keyboard does not come with onboard memory for your macros. So you actually need to go into iCUE to set up your macros, and that could be a deal breaker for you guys who don't like the software. Personally, I feel that with all the improvements that Corsair has made to the iCUE interface and layout, I find it quite intuitive, so I'm fine with that. And again, having no onboard memory for macros would mean that in order to use all your macros, you would need your iCUE software to be turned on at all times while using the keyboard. Speaking of the software, as you can see in the settings tab, you can adjust the RGB brightness as well as the polling rate. And the devices section in the action tab, you can configure your macros. In lighting effects, you can change your lightings and stuff like that. Also with hardware lighting, you can actually save customized settings onto the board so it runs even when iCUE is turned off. For gaming, with the Cherry Viola switches paired with the 1000Hz polling rate, N-key rollover, and the 100% anti-ghosting, you're gonna get a very consistent and responsive gaming experience, which I absolutely love while playing FPS games and other titles. Okay, so what's the verdict? Okay, firstly, let's look at the pros. It has a very minimal aesthetic, which is perfect for work, but the crazy per key RGB is perfect for play, so work and play, excellent. The RGB is actually very bright compared to the previous generation, and the body is solid build quality, okay? Awesome. Also, it has a very small footprint for a full-size layout keyboard, which means that it will fit on your tiny desk if you cannot live without your numpad lah. Next, as I mentioned, with the 1000 Hz polling rate, the anti-rollover, as well as the 100% anti-ghosting, it makes for a very good gaming keyboard. Also, we have great onboard controls, which means that you don't really need to use IQ to program the RGB and all that good stuff. And it is relatively affordable at 419 ringgit or $89.99 US. Sexy. In terms of Meh, there's no onboard recording and memory for your macros, so you would actually need to have IQ running at all times while using the keyboard if you want to use your macros. Also, they come with ABS keycaps, which is not the greatest, but still would serve its function. I suggest that you just use them until they wear out and then buy PBT double shot ones to replace them. So, win-win. Finally, cons. Firstly, there's no detachable cable, which could be a bummer for some of you guys. And there is no hot swappable cherry viola switches, although they were designed to be hot swappable. So yeah, that's a bummer. With all that said, I still think that this Corsair K60 RGB Pro is a very good contender for a mid-range gaming keyboard, priced at only 419 ringgit or $89.99 US. I give this a very commendable 8 out of 10. Finally, we have the flagship kingpin, shigading ding, the K100 RGB. Why is there no Pro? Well, good question. If you're already using this keyboard, the K100, people already know you're a pro. Just like me. Even if I eat at Mama, right, I don't have to wear Rolex all over my body to let people know I'm a bangsawan. You know why? Because they already say so on my shirt. Cannot read ah? Go back to school ah? Hey, don't angry lah, subscribe lah, okay. By the way, this K100 RGB actually comes with Corsair's proprietary Corsair OPX optical mechanical switches. What's so special about this switch? Well, I'll tell you later lah. Wait, but how much does it cost? Guess. Can I guess? Very cheap only. 999 ringgit. Less than 1,000 or $229 US. Pretty cheap and affordable, which is why it actually comes with more accessories than the previous two peripherals that I showed just now. What does it come with? It comes with an empty box because I already unboxed just now already, my bro. Okay, it comes with a keyboard and a bunch of other goodies such as a magnetic attachable wrist rest, a keycap puller, and some special keycaps which I will explain to you what they are in a while. Firstly, let's take a look at the aesthetics, and as you can see, this K100 RGB is made of gunmetal anodized aluminum, very similar to the previous K95 Platinum and also the K60 that we saw just now. The layout and also the frame is almost identical as the previous K95 Platinum, which was the flagship previously. Again, similar to the K60, we have a low profile branding with a K100 printed at the bottom left, as well as a illuminated Corsair logo on top. As you can see if I turn this on, flanked by indicator lights on the left and right. The build quality is absolutely spectacular. All the materials used feel very premium, and it puts it a few tiers higher than even the K60 that we just checked out. When I exert force, even at the middle of the keyboard, there is no flex at all. Also, if I shake it, there's barely any sound. Compared to the previous K95 Platinum, they have relocated the RGB strip that was on top here to the back of the keyboard, right over here. And it has 22 zones of RGB that you can program to get all the RGB goodness that you want. This is also where the USB 2 pass-through port is situated. Again, the cable is not detachable, but this time it is braided and super thick. The sides are actually different as well, with this black glossy finish and its own 11 zone programmable RGB. And if you combine all the RGB strips on the side as well as the back, you're gonna get this Corsair 44 zone RGB light edge. Again, we have the same updated per key RGB that is extremely bright, which is awesome. In terms of dimensions, this keyboard is 470mm long, 166mm wide, and 38mm thick, which makes it a beast of a keyboard weighing at 1.31 kilograms. The cable comes with two USB Type-A connectors at the top, one for the keyboard and one for the pass-through. Corsair requires both connectors to be connected to USB 3 ports because it gives out a little bit more power compared to the standard USB 2 ports. Flipping the keyboard over at the bottom, we have 4 very large rubber pads, as you can see over here, and 2 height adjustable legs for different settings, and also cable routing options over here. Well, it's not for the very thick cable that comes with the keyboard, but for the pass-through instead, in case you want to attach maybe say a cabled mouse to your keyboard. Also, you have these 2 magnetic cutouts over here that is actually used for you to attach the included wrist rest like so. Ta-da! I much prefer this magnetic approach to attaching the wrist rest than the previous plastic tabs and clips that we have, because those actually get loose over time and don't snap in as well as they do at the beginning of the lifespan of the keyboard. All keycaps except for the G keys on the left are actually made out of this upgraded 1.5mm thick PBT double shot keycap with a font that is 100 times better than the previous squash gamery looking font from Corsair. It is not a huge deal for the G keys to be made out of ABS because you are less likely to spam them as you would your other keys, so it's actually fine. We also get some extra ABS keycaps for your FPS and mobile keys, and a keycap puller. Never say never to freebies, but I'm less likely to use these because I prefer a more minimal aesthetic. In terms of switches, what we have here is the Corsair OPX optical mechanical switch. And what the optical means is that there's actually an infrared light to detect keystrokes, and there is actually 0 debounce. Just for context, the Cherry MX Speed Silver has an actuation distance of 1.2mm, a total travel distance of 3.4mm, and a 45-gram actuation force. It also has a durability up to 100 million keystrokes in terms of the lifespan. Corsair actually stepped it up with their OPX switches with an actuation distance of 1.0mm, a total travel distance of 3.2mm, the same 45-gram actuation force, but a 150 million keystroke lifespan. That's crazy. Now let's do the sound test. I'ma get this a microphone. In terms of functions, we have the same 6 programmable G keys for macros on the left side, just like its older brother, the K95 Platinum. On the top left, you have 3 tactile buttons, one for profile, one for IQ, and one for the Windows lock. With a RGB illuminated control wheel in the middle with a textured metal finish. The buttons feel very responsive with a nice audible click, and the wheel has this nice tactile step when turned. I thought the wheel here is just a gimmick to control all this IQ RGB stuff, but it actually serves quite a number of cool functions. You can actually use this IQ button to toggle between 4 different sets of functions marked by different colors, which are actually customizable. By default, blue allows you to control RGB brightness, yellow allows you to switch applications, green allows you to track jog for compatible apps and media players such as Spotify and iTunes when the application is actually in the front. Finally, white allows you to move between different tracks. You can even use it to zoom or scroll vertically and horizontally, and this is all customizable in the IQ software. With the control wheel set to red or macro recording mode, you can record macro functions for any of your 6 G keys without accessing the IQ software. On the top right of the keyboard, you get this nice textured volume scroll wheel that has no tactile response. It is very smooth. And next to it, you have a toggle button for the mute. Again, right here we have all these different function keys that let you switch between different RGB modes. Exactly the same with the K60, which is pretty cool. Once again, you should never throw away your instructions manual when it comes to this. Well, of course, you can download it on the internet if you want to, but it's cool to be able to just read it if you want to like switch up your R-Gae-Bees. In terms of software, it's actually pretty similar with the K60, but we do get some extra features such as the 44-zone 3-sided RGB light edge that can be customized. We also have the control wheel customization, which is crazy useful as mentioned before. Check it out. You can also disable the keys in the performance tab when Windows lock is toggled. You get up to 200 onboard profiles to be saved into the 8MB onboard storage, which is crazy. I don't know who needs 200 profiles, but there you go. Under settings, you can now switch on the 4000 Hz or 0.25 millisecond polling rate, which is insane. And finally, we have the Elgato Stream Deck implementation for the G keys, which means that you can now use your G keys as if they are Stream Deck keys. For gaming, this keyboard is so responsive that you won't believe. It has this crazy 4000 Hz polling rate, which is insane and future-proof. Also, you have the 100% anti-ghosting and NQ rollover, making this keyboard unparalleled when it comes to gaming experience. So what gives us this crazy 4000 Hz hyper polling rate? Well, that's because of Corsair's Exon hyper processing technology that runs on a SoC or system on a chip, and it gives us this crazy 4000 Hz hyper polling and key scanning rate. So what's the verdict? Okay, let's look at the pros first. It is a very modern aesthetic with less gamery gimmicks that we're used to with these kind of keyboards from Corsair. Also, the crazy perky RGB is nuts. It's really bright and is so customizable. Then we have this crazily excessive 44-zone 3-sided RGB light edge, which, well, illuminates your desk as well to give you a little bit of ambient lighting if you are into R-Gae-Bees. Next, it has a very solid build quality that will last for a long time, hopefully. And the materials feel premium. Even the wrist rest is something that you would definitely enjoy. We also have the upgraded PBT double shot keycaps, which will last a long time with especially better looking fonts than the previous squash gaming huge chunky fonts that I absolutely can't stand. Also, we have very nice tactile buttons for the toggles. The wheels are great. You have the IQ control wheel that has a lot of cool features that extends this keyboard beyond just a normal gaming keyboard. The last two things are the 4000 Hz polling rate, which is insane and makes this keyboard highly responsive. And we have the OPX switch, which is highly durable as well, especially even compared to a Cherry MX Speed switch, and that's insane. Moving on to Meh. Firstly, not everybody wants a giant keyboard like this, so there you go. And secondly, there are still some keys that come with ABS instead of full PBT double shot keys. Finally, when it comes to the cons, firstly, there's no detachable cable. I really wish that they would invent a detachable cable that has a pass-through as well. Maybe with USB-C, you know, or USB 3.2 in the future. I don't know, but it'll be great. So we don't have to lug around this giant, very thick cable wherever we go. It's not that flexible, you know. Also, finally the price is 999 ringgit, which might be out of a lot of you guys' budget, but you know what? I think it's worth it because there's a lot of tech that's packed into this flagship of a K100 RGB keyboard. I think it's worth it, so yeah. And that is why I give this K100 RGB a very solid 9 out of 10. If you thought this video is awesome, please give it a like and share, leave a comment down below and let me know which one you can afford. No, let me know which one you actually like, and then we can you know, discuss about it. Also, what do you think about all these new features that Corsair is packing into their peripherals? Are they like gimmicks? Do you feel that they are cool? You know, how much do you care about RGB? Let me know. I want to know more about you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see more content like this and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss out on any uploads that we do put up on our channel. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see more shenanigans from the Modhouse crew, and consider joining the supporter group in our Facebook, because we're going to be releasing some exclusive content as well as digital assets on how we actually make videos here at Modhouse. And I will see you in the next one.